Hey everyone, my name is Cosmic and I'm going to give you 5 quick and effective tips for playing Torbjorn in Overwatch. Since his rework a little while ago, Torbjorn has become a very strong and reliable hero, suitable for almost any situation in the game, with crazy high damage capabilities and some neat little tricks to help him synergize with his turret and his team more effectively. With that being said, let's go on to the first tip that I have, which is to use the primary fire more. Now I know this may seem like a little bit of a no-brainer, but let me explain. It's no secret that Torbjorn's Rivet Gun is a very strong weapon, but one mistake I see a lot of people making is using the secondary fire, aka the shotgun, a little too much. Torbjorn's left click, or primary fire, is a guaranteed 70 damage if you hit a shot, and 140 damage if you hit a headshot. His secondary fire, his shotgun, does from 3.75 to 12.5 damage per pellet, in a burst of 10 of them that has a fall-off range of around 15 meters. His primary fire can shoot every 0.6 seconds and uses 1 ammunition. His secondary fire can shoot every 0.8 seconds and uses 3 ammunition. This means that no matter what distance you are from your target, your primary fire is an absolutely guaranteed 70 damage minimum if you can hit the shot, ignoring some resistances like Roadhog's Take a Breather. However, the distance that the shotgun remains this effective is severely shorter. Of course, this makes sense, it's a shotgun, but even at close to medium distances, the shotgun is almost always less effective than the left click unless you hit almost every pellet. For example, if I'm aiming at this Doomfist's arm and hit a left click, I deal the solid 70 damage. However, if I use the shotgun, I'll only deal 30 to 50 damage. Even at super close range, firing a shot that is anywhere off the direct center of the target is almost always going to deal less damage with the secondary fire than it will just using the primary fire. Not to mention, you can shoot more often and fire more rounds without having to reload by using your left click as well. Now, obviously, this is not going to be the case 100% of the time and depends a lot on your aim. Against larger targets like Wrecking Ball, Roadhog, or any tank for that matter, using the shotgun can absolutely be the better choice. However, I would still highly recommend using his primary fire in 90% of situations, as landing a shot is guaranteed solid damage and doesn't rely on distance or pellets to do better. Generally, I would use the left click unless you are in the face of your target. Tip number 2 is your turret positioning. Now, this can matter quite a lot. I'm going to split this into 4 very quick fire tips that'll help you put your turrets in better places. Firstly, if you're ever playing Torbjorn on attack, hybrid, or escort maps, do not put the turret on the payload. This is predictable, not very helpful, and will be in the heart of most team fights, which will get it destroyed very quickly. Instead, anticipate where team fights will be and place the turret further away with line of sight of where that fight will take place. For example, if we were on Eichenwald and the cart is about to push behind this corner, I would put the turret here near the stairs, because I know this is where the next team fight will happen, and this will keep the turret alive for longer and make it more effective in the battle. In general, you want the turret to be protected from choke points and where long-range heroes or snipers like Widowmaker or Hanzo can't see it, while also giving it a line of sight to the objective where fights will happen. It doesn't matter if your turret isn't shooting very much, it doesn't have to be. What's important is that it's being used at the right time. Having it look down a choke point is just going to have it get shielded and destroyed from far away, and now you have a 10-second cooldown before you can place another one. If your turret is shooting while there's a team fight happening, the enemy team will be distracted for it long enough to deal some good damage in the fight, and will require a small amount of focus away from the fight for an enemy to destroy it. Always let the turret contribute to team fights and be a 7th team member in essence, rather than letting it be its own thing. Another thing to keep in mind is to try and place the turret far away from the fight. It has a very generous range, so placing it at a distance where enemies like McCree and Soldier 76's damage drop-off will cause them to deal less damage to it can be important. However, don't overthink this and don't take too long placing it down, as this is not the most important thing to keep an eye on, and the other points should take priority. If Torbjorn's turret is destroyed in combat or is manually destroyed when it has received or taken damage in the last 3 seconds, there is a 10-second cooldown before he's able to place another one. If Torbjorn manually destroys his turret after it hasn't taken damage or shot for 3 seconds, indicated by a white background behind the ability square, a much more generous 5-second cooldown will be given. Rarely is this useful, but if you ever feel like you would like to reposition your turret, do not neglect manually destroying it, especially if you can get the 5-second cooldown. If there is a Genji or another character peeking it, trickling it with damage, and it's not shooting at anything, it's usually better to just destroy it so you can redeploy it quicker when the fight starts. Definitely consider repositioning your turret, especially if you can get the 5-second cooldown. Now, despite everything I just said, his turret is not the most impactful part of his kit. And while it is absolutely a very useful part of it, I see a lot of people valuing it a little too much. As I mentioned earlier, Torbjorn's Rivet Gun does extremely solid damage and has no damage drop-off on his primary fire, and it's always available to use. This should absolutely be your main focus and your primary damage output. Your turret is a fragile, stationary target that is probably going to be destroyed quite often. There are some very good hidden turret spots in Overwatch that will keep it active for longer, but these are quite few and far between and lose their effectiveness per game very quickly. You can repair it with your hammer, and we'll discuss something useful to do with that in just a second, but it should almost never be your priority. Throw the turret down and fire your weapon. The damage you deal with the Rivet Gun is far greater than what a single auto-aim turret will ever do. With that being said, make sure you always have a turret active. You'll be surprised at how useful it can be, even if it's just thrown down as a distraction. And never, under any circumstances, use Overload in order to swing your hammer a little faster to keep it repaired, or use your body to protect it. Overload is an ability far too useful to waste on your turret and will not be worth it in 99% of circumstances. Much like Mercy, whose pistol is reloaded automatically if her staff is held for the duration of her reload animation, the exact same thing applies with Torbjorn. If you hold the hammer for 2 seconds, his Rivet Gun will be automatically reloaded. If you're in a situation where you're out of ammo and need to reload and you're right next to your turret, whip out the hammer and hit it 3 times, especially if it actually needs repairing. There is no disadvantage to doing this, as repairing your turret while simultaneously reloading your weapon is simply just better than only reloading your weapon. Obviously, this is situational also. If your turret is far away or otherwise unreachable, this is not worth it. But definitely try to be conscious of where you are in relation to your turret and keep an eye on its health. And be sure to hit it 3 times instead of reloading where you can. There has been situations where a Hanzo has shot my turret after the first hit, and I've actually fully repaired it, so definitely keep an eye on this if you can. Torbjorn's ultimate, Molten Core, has him spew 10 pools of molten lava from his claw. This fires very quickly, 0.1375 seconds per shot to be exact. Each pool deals 160 damage per second to shield and health, and a huge 250 damage a second to armor. The best time to use this ultimate is when the enemy team has committed to pushing through a choke point or preventing the enemy team's escape during one of your own aggressive pushes. Torbjorn's ultimate is very strong if used effectively due to the crazy damage it deals. Opponents are not going to want to walk into it, so blocking off potential escape paths and guarding choke point exits is, despite the meme, one of the most effective ways to zone your opponents, and if you don't succeed in killing them during their escape, will inevitably funnel them into a different area and expose more weaknesses. Other opportunities to use this ultimate include when you know the fight will be coming to the objective. Always try and spew the pools around as much as you can. If you fire 2 puddles in the same place, the size of the puddle will not increase or only increase very slightly, and the damage will not overlap. So basically, always try to use Molten Core to funnel enemies into a different area and prevent their escape during team fights. If the time is about to run out, spray the objective or spawn exits to maximize the chances of winning and minimize the chances to waste the ultimate. And there we have it, 5 tips for Torbjorn in Overwatch. Let me know what you thought and if you found any of these useful. I'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.